everybody. My name is Tina Mazzone, and I am the Business Relations Developer of Uhuru Furniture and Collectibles, an economic development project of the African People's Education and Defense Fund. I want to welcome everyone who came out to this very important press conference called by APEDF and our community partners. We welcome the press, our speakers, and all of you who came out of concern for the recent escalation of attacks on the African community's right to have access to all the educational resources that other communities have. APEDF felt that it was critical to respond to the announcement of the closing of 23 public schools by the School Reform Committee, and to bring together progressive organizations and individuals to oppose this decision and work together for real solutions. I want to introduce the first speaker, the manager of Uhuru Furniture and Collectibles, Allison Haney, who will give the statement from the African People's Education and Defense Fund.
Thank you, Tina, and I'm honored to be able to give the presentation today to this press conference from the African People's Education and Defense Fund that has called this press conference to call on the city of Philadelphia to stop the closing of 23 public schools in Philadelphia and to end the achievement gap. All the 23 schools that the School Reform Commission is closing are in the African community. This will disrupt the education of 14,000 students and negatively affect their families and communities. The city is closing over 10% of the public schools in the district. And this has been determined despite the outcry from students, parents, and teachers in this city. This can only intensify the huge achievement gap that already exists for African children in Philadelphia. The school district claims the school's closings are unavoidable because the district is broke. However, we call on the city to get the resources needed to build our public schools by collecting delinquent property taxes from thousands of developers and investors who dodge taxes and flip houses for profit, who have deprived City Hall and the cash-strapped school district of $298 million a year, according to a recent investigation by the Philadelphia Inquirer. According to this investigation, well over half of the tax delinquent properties in Philadelphia, at least 57,500 properties, are owned by investors, not occupants. These suburban-based property owners are 44,500 years in arrears in the city real estate taxes. Yet while the city lets these investors get away with avoiding paying property taxes, it relentlessly raises the taxes of the most impoverished sectors of our city's residents, causing hundreds of families to lose their homes. We call on the city government to implement public policies that promote genuine economic development to end the poverty of African communities and address the real disparities in the conditions of the African community. From poor housing and education to high rates of unemployment, hunger, and imprisonment. Currently, the city's public policies don't even acknowledge these conditions. Rather, we see the people's resources spent on public policies that promote heavy-handed policing and massive imprisonment of Black youth. In 2013, for example, the city allocated 33% of its entire budget to police, courts, and prisons, and only 6% to health and social services. The crime rate is down, but prison is a financial industry, growth industry that provides thousands of jobs to Philadelphians. 80% of the people incarcerated in the city's prisons, including children in the Youth Study Center, are African. The majority of people in prison in Pennsylvania are Black men from Philadelphia. Philadelphia has the third highest poverty rate of all U.S. cities. 31% of Black families and 47% of those headed by single women live below the poverty level. Food prices are rising, and child hunger in Philadelphia is among the highest in the country. North and Southwest Philly are termed food deserts without sufficient access to large grocery stores. Low-income residents are almost twice as likely to experience poor health. Aging and degenerating housing stock also puts low-income residents at risk of poor health. Big banks and speculators reaped huge profits through subprime mortgages and underpaying for houses. Gentrification is pushing out long-standing black communities to make low-cost, quality housing in neighborhoods available to incoming students and young homeowners. Many people find it more economical to live in Philadelphia and commute to their jobs in New York than live in New York City. Philadelphia has one of the highest rates of unemployment in the U.S. A Daily News article on May 31st, 2011 stated that unemployed black men in Philadelphia in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s will most likely never work again. The African People's Education and Defense Fund calls on the city and all residents to honestly look at the real conditions of the African community that experiences the injustices of an economically depressed city attempting to solve its budget problems at the expense of the black community. APEDF calls on everyone to support the African community's right to the same peace, health, happiness, and prosperous life that all people desire. We know there can be no real peace and unity in our city when such dire conditions and disparities exist. We call on all communities to partner with APEDF to create real solutions to these unsustainable conditions. This is the way forward to overcome the problems and bridge the divisions in our city. APEDF is building dynamic grassroots self-reliance programs addressing the disparities in health, education, and economic development for the African community. Join us in building the second annual Uhuru Health Festival and Flea Market on Saturday, April 20th in Clark Park at 43rd and Chester Avenue in West Philly. Support the African People's Education and Defense Fund, African Health, and African Hands programs. Shop, donate, and volunteer at Uhuru Furniture and Collectibles, an economic development project of the African People's Education and Defense Fund, and participate in the Uhuru Flea Market volunteer team. Join the APEDF volunteer team open meetings every Wednesday from 7 to 8:30 p.m. Uhuru.
Uhuru.
Thank you, Allison. Our next speaker is Kianga Danielle, representing the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement, an organization that actively defends the democratic rights of the African community.
Uhuru, thanks for the introduction. My name is Kianga, and I'm speaking on behalf of the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement, the Philadelphia branch. MPDOM was founded in 1991 by the African People's Socialist Party. MPDOM is an organization that has been fighting for self-determination, reparations, and self-governance courageously for the African community for the last 22 years, both internationally and nationally. MPDOM is in unity with the African People's Education and Defense Fund and Uhuru Furniture, and standing up against the constant oppression and repression of the African community in Philadelphia. For at least 500 years, white people throughout the world have lived off the stolen resources and labor of African people. Africa has surpassed the Middle East as the greatest supplier of oil to the United States. United States is responsible for 24% of the oil used here. Over 80% of the coltan used by companies like Apple, Motorola, Dell, and many of the world's electronic devices such as cell phones, computers, DVD players, iPads is from Africa. Additionally, 80% of the cobalt used in lithium-ion batteries, a key component in the future development of green technology, including cars, come from Africa. But African people never see any of the billion-dollar profits. Right here in Philadelphia, conditions are no better. They're the direct reflection of a parasitic capitalist system that has started and maintained through the exploitation of black bodies. Philadelphia is said to be one of the 10 poorest cities, and neighborhoods such as North Philly, West, and South Philly are hit the hardest. While the government claims jobs are being added each month, black people in Philadelphia are unemployed at higher rates in Philadelphia. Black people are suffering from hunger and are forced to choose between eating deli or paying rent. Philadelphia has the second highest child hunger rate, and programs such as food stamps and WIC don't last for a whole month, and the food isn't even healthy you're allowed to get on WIC. Some people are under the illusion that having a black president and a black mayor means significant change for the black community. These people point to Obama and say, if he can do it, we all can. MPDOM understands that this is just another form of colonialism, neocolonialism, which has left many black people confused. NEDA does not signify positive change for the black community. In fact, his mere presence is threatening for all black people. He has implemented policies such as stop and frisk, curfews that directly impact black youth, and said nothing about the many police beatings that have occurred in the African community. NEDA has made sure that the police and prisons continue to get billion-dollar funding, but has remained silent on the school closings, which are all in the African community. All around the world, resistance is growing daily by African and oppressed peoples. The U.S. isn't just failing because of a mere crisis, but it's failing due to the fact that oppressed people worldwide are resisting. You had the riots in London last year, the so-called flash mobs in Philadelphia, and more recently, the riots in Brooklyn over a 16-year-old boy who was gunned down by the police. He was shot over 7 times and killed by the NYPD Saturday that just passed. And of course, we can't forget Hugo Chavez, who just passed away, who was a strong anti-imperialist force and refused to do business with the U.S. We recognize that police containment won't work, and we believe that African people have not only a right but a duty to resist this system. The stolen wealth of the white community, the United States government, and the City Hall needs to be repaid back to the African community. For too long, black people worldwide and right here in Philadelphia have suffered due to our resources and labor being stolen by this government. It's time for that system to change, and MPDOM is determined to lead this struggle up while raising the consciousness of the masses. Every day MPDOM grows, the resistance is getting more organized. Uhura.
Uhuru. Thank you, Kianga. Now we'll hear from Danita Bates, a school district parent and community activist.
Again, I'm gonna mention my name's Danita Bates. I'm an activist and organizer in North Philadelphia and a parent first. Unfortunately, as we argued through the whole school closing process, that the SRC Commission board members and the school district officials would not listen to the people, the parents, and the community and the students in the Philadelphia School District, and they proved it on March the 7th. Unfortunately, I have to say, there are many folks in Philadelphia that are getting discouraged. Please do not get discouraged. The fight is just beginning. We still have to continue to fight, get the discouragement out, take the discouragement out in fighting. Starting with the rally going to Harrisburg on March 19th. That's Wednesday, March 19th, leaving 4:40 at 7:30 a.m. I will leave information here for that march, have emails out, and get that information out on Word radio station as well. So that information will be out, and we're planning to march all the way up to August to the governor's office. Governor Corbett, who has been destructive to the city, not only to the city, the school, the education system is in a distress nationwide. So we're nationally going to get together and we're going to fight this fight all the way up to DC, as long as it takes for us to get this education policies and procedures together, not only for our black community and our black children, but the education policies and all being equal. Not only do I want to say we still need the parent cooperation and participation in schools that are closing, schools that are not closing. It's going to affect you negatively if your school is closing or not. Charter schools are in the closings as well. And I must say, the school district board is still not publicly announcing and admitting that there are 66 schools in total that was in the plans of closing. Only the first 37 was planned to close this year. and so now it's down to 27. So we'll still have to fight for the 23. We still have to fight for those 23 schools to stay open because there's still too many, and we have to still fight and stand up that this process won't happen again in the next 2 years. Now they're coming after Head Start. There was a meeting I was in yesterday. They're planning to close all Head Start in public schools, and they want you to go to the CCIS program if you're eligible for your child to go to a public school. Unacceptable. So stop sitting around being discouraged and saying everything is done. It's not done. It's not in stone. People is pressure, and until the people stand up, Philadelphia, let this governor know we are sick and tired. We're coming to fight, and the fight is not over. So please, we need the support to Harrisburg and to Washington, D.C., not only for education, for the ABI bill that's going on, the housing, the sequestration and all that. Is going to affect not only the black poor community, it's going to affect the middle class, it's going to affect senior citizens, it's going to affect disability, mental health. We got to get together. We have to stand up and come together. Really, it's just frustrating right now, but we need to come together. Everyone, all over this city, all over this nation, all over this state, we have to stand up and let the government know that Philadelphia is not going away. We're here
with African resistance. Ukuru.
Okay, thank you, Harris. Now I want to read a statement that was sent in support of this press conference by a holistic health professional who has partnered with APEDF in the African Health in Our Hands series and is also participating in building the second annual Uhuru Health Fest and Flea Market. This is a statement from Ajua Hawkins, Esquire, of the holistic health practice known as Ajua Love. Ajua states, unfortunately, our society values perpetual war and capitalism over teaching our youth anything of substance so that they can reach their God-given potential, such as who they truly are, how to think critically, and the way in which this global economy is really run. It is my dream that we would all wake up to the urgent issue that we are destroying the greatest force of positive change in this world, our children. Ajua Hawkins, Esquire, owner of Ajua Love. I'm also going to read a statement by another organization partnering with APEDF and the Health Fest. This statement comes from Bush Medicine Practice, which is an independent humanitarian initiative that provides free medical consultation and supplies to underserved, hard-to-reach populations worldwide, with a primary focus on preventive health care, maternity care, and nutrition. Bush Medical Partnership states, the Bush Medicine Partnership unites with the African People's Education and Defense Fund in the call to stop the closure of 23 public schools in Philadelphia. Closing schools does not improve education in any way. Rather, it destabilizes a system which is already stressed by lack of resources. Closing schools increases the disparities which exist in our city by making it more difficult and dangerous for children and teens living in impoverished regions in the city to obtain an education which is on par with the most affluent. It is well known that academic success is a predictor for the well-being of youth and their subsequent adult health. Closing schools, which inevitably leads to poorer attendance and performance, puts our children at risk for poor health outcomes. It disconnects them with vital health programs which aim to decrease hunger, violence, abuse, unsafe sex practices, and obesity. This perpetuates the cycle of poverty in our city, which inevitably leads to health problems, violence, and impoverishment among those with the lowest resources. Because we care, we stand together in opposition of these school closings to support healthy, safe futures for our children. And this is from Natalie Beatty. She's on the board of directors at the Bush Medicine Partnership. So we want to thank them right now for providing that statement.